College football is back. What's up, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another video of Sports Talk Buffalo. As always, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a video. I talk Bills, Sabres, and UB Bulls men's basketball and football right here on this page. Also, remember to check out my Teespring store. The link is in the description below. Now, this offseason, with the departure of quarterback Kyle Van Treese, Coach Mo Linguist had the task to find the University at Buffalo's next quarterback for this upcoming season. This past week, Coach Mo did just that, naming Rutgers transfer quarterback and Jamestown native Cole Snyder as the starter heading into this big Week 1 matchup against the Maryland Terrapins. Now that UB has named their signal caller, let's look ahead into the matchup with Maryland. Now, Maryland is looking to build off of last year's success as they went 7-6 last season, which is just the second time they have won 7 games since joining the Big Ten Conference in 2014. They are led by their star QB, who is the younger brother of Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, and that's Tua Tagovailoa, who is a former 4-star quarterback who originally committed to play for the Alabama Crimson Tide, where he spent 1 season before transferring to Maryland. Tua is coming off of a fantastic season that saw him throw for 3,860 yards, 26 touchdowns against just 11 interceptions, and adding 2 rushing touchdowns. Now, Tua will be throwing to a very experienced wide receiver core in transfer Jacob Copeland from Florida, who had 642 yards and 4 touchdowns in Florida. In senior Jay-Sean Jones, who had 244 yards last season. Senior Dante Demas Jr., who had 507 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. And returning is their leading receiver, which is Raheem Jarrett, who had 829 yards and 5 touchdowns last season. Now, last season, Maryland had a very good offense who averaged 442 yards per game of total offense. However, to counter that, their defense gave up over 400 yards a game last season, so it was a track meet game after game for Maryland for their entire season. Now, the Terrapins averaged over 135 rushing yards per game last season. However, they will be without their best rusher from last season, and that's Tayon Fleet Davis, who rushed for over 800 yards, and instead will rely on sophomore Colby McDonald, who had a very good year as a freshman and averaged 5.4 yards per carry. Now, defensively, the Terrapins will be led by their junior linebacker, Ruben Hypolite, who had 62 tackles. He accumulated 62 total tackles last season, including 2 tackles for loss. And defensive end, Greg Rose, who had 5 sacks and 5.5 tackles for loss. Now on to the UB Bulls, who are coming off of a 4-8 season, which is their lowest win total in 4 years. And they will also be starting a very inexperienced quarterback in Cole Snyder, who saw limited action, and I mean limited action, in his time at Rutgers, going 21 of 31 for 165 yards and 1 touchdown. He also added 16 carries for 48 yards in his time at Rutgers. Now, Cole beat out more experienced quarterback and also Western New York native, as he is from West Seneca, and Matt Myers, as he won over the second-year head coach Mo Linguist with his work ethic, his confidence, and most of all, his consistency. That's something that Matt Myers has failed to demonstrate over the course of his time here at UB was his consistency. He had shown flashes of being a very, very good quarterback. However, he was just never able to consistently be consistent enough in order to take back his starting job after getting hurt when Kyle Van Treese took over. Now, Cole will be throwing to mostly new wide receivers. However, there is one name that is coming back to Buffalo for his very last year of collegiate football, and that's wide receiver Keon Williams, who led the Bulls in 2021 in receiving with 835 yards and 2 touchdowns. And a newcomer who a lot of people are very excited about. Most people are saying he already has an NFL body, and that's Louisville transfer and former 3-star recruit Justin Marshall, who had 322 yards and 1 touchdown in 2021 at Louisville. Buffalo, who over the last few years, roughly 4 or 5 years, has been known in the football world to be a grinded out, in-your-face type of running team. However, they have lost pretty much all of their workhorses as Jared Patterson, Kevin Marks left for the NFL. And unfortunately, their breakout star from last year, running back Dylan McDuffie, who had over 1,000 yards, rushed for over 5 yards a carry, also left for greener pastures at Georgia Tech. Now, the job will likely fall to redshirt freshman L.J. Henderson, who looked strong all summer long, or to potentially Swiss Army knife running back, and that is Ron Cook Jr., who can pretty much do it all. He averaged a very respectable, I believe, 4.5 to 5 yards a carry last season. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he is also very good at punt returns and kick returns for UB. Now, the Bulls defense is led, of course, by their stud star linebacker, and that is brother of Jarrett Patterson, twin brother of Jarrett Patterson, and that is James Patterson, who accumulated 114 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and an interception this past season. Also, what will be showcased in this game against Maryland is UB's completely redone secondary, as Buffalo has brought in a ton of transfers, and that should go without saying, as last year their secondary got absolutely cooked game after game, and that is not something that somebody like Mo Linguist will tolerate, as he was a defensive backs coach, and he was a defensive back coach all the way into the NFL. Now, last season, Buffalo's offense averaged a very respectable 411 yards per game of total offense. However, as I just mentioned, their defense would continuously get cooked, and they gave up 417 yards per game against their opponents. Last season, Buffalo averaged nearly 26 points per game versus their FBS opponents. I did not add in their game against Wagner, where they absolutely mollywopped them into submission, because I just didn't think that that would be an accurate representation of who they were. While the Maryland Terrapins averaged nearly 27 points per game versus FBS opponents. The one thing that needs to be mentioned, however, while these teams look like they are very similar on paper, it needs to be noted that last season Maryland played against 4 top 25 teams in the nation. They played against 4 teams that were ranked in the top 25 last year, and that definitely brought down their numbers, as they had a very difficult time with the top 25 last season. Now, the Terrapins are 11-4 all-time against opponents in the Mid-American Conference, and they just last season beat Kent State something like 38-14 or 38-17. I forget. I think it's 38-15 last season. And on the counter side, UB has not fared very well against the Big Ten, going just 3-15 all time against teams in the Big Ten. This will be the first meeting ever between these two schools, and it's safe to say UB is facing a giant uphill battle heading into this game with a completely rebuilt secondary, a completely rebuilt offensive line, an unknown at quarterback, and an unknown at running back. My prediction is I think the Bills brought in an absolute truckload of talent this offseason, and I think they make it interesting for just a little bit in this game. However, I think they eventually fall 38-14 against the Maryland Terrapins and lose, going 0-1 to start their season. It was an uphill battle. It is not the greatest first game to start when you have all these new faces. However, I think talent alone will help keep this game close, as UB is chock full of transfer talent from Power 5 conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Leave a prediction. Let me know if I'm way off. Let me know if you think UB actually has a shot. Let me know if you think Maryland is just going to absolutely stomp on the UB Bulls. Everything in the comment section below. I respond to just about every single comment that I get, guys. Remember, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a video. Thank you guys for watching. Have a fantastic week.